Schitt's Creek and the benefits of simple living. The country mouse and the city mouse. Are you one or the other? When we think of this classic Aesop fable, we see the difference between not only places, but lifestyles. Country living is often perceived as slower, yet safer and more personal. City life, by contrast, is seen as much faster, more plugged into opportunities, but more alienating with fewer safeguards against intense competition. That divide now bleeds into our politics, with the majority of urban voters going for Democratic candidates and rural folks going for Republicans. While that demarcation line is not always absolute, it proves stubbornly resilient in our thinking. For 6 seasons, we have watched the Rose family comically struggle in the aptly named town of Schitt's Creek. This acclaimed Canadian situation comedy depicts contemporary issues such as class, money, and LGBT identity, but is done so with the softest of touches, showing the silly, self-centered, and sometimes hurtful actions of the Roses, but balancing that with their kinder moments and seeing through their worst to a more compassionate side. It also documents their growing personal connection to the town and its people. I should pause here and mention that while this video focuses on themes and overall developments, some plots will be revealed. Spoiler alerts ahead for those who have not yet watched the series. There is the family patriarch Johnny, who was the founder and CEO of
the second largest retail video chain in North America.
While appearing the most conservative, he is well-mannered, sharply dressed, and supportive of his family, though frequently frustrated by their many idiosyncrasies. Johnny is the very necessary straight man for this very zany family. His wife Moira is an actress and the family diva. A star of Broadway stages and television soaps, her fame technically was declining, but her innate charisma remains in full luster. Moira is an outsized talent with an eccentricity to match. Moira's melodramatic nature is only matched by her affection and attention to her wigs. Lots of wigs. Both parents have their caring moments, but initially raised their children as an afterthought and were often absentee caretakers. Because of their stranded status in Schitt's Creek, they have to be parents now to their fully grown kids. That's definitely fertile ground for plenty of comic conflict. Their oldest and only son, David, was a gallery owner living in New York. He is the apple of his parents' eye, but has struggled to find the life he can embrace. David has a deeper emotional side that he tries his best to conceal, with material comforts, food, bad relationships, and a lot of wit, style, and camped-up neuroses. In many ways, he is a true heir to his mother, Moira. Their youngest and only daughter, Alexis, is a jet-setting, would-be reality show star who probably has lived the most adventurous life of the four. Her romantic encounters appear to have been with none below princes and pop stars. Alexis's global romances are only dwarfed by the sheer daring do of her escapes from sudden misfortune, at least according to her telling. She also has some of the best lines in the series.
I don't skate through life, David. I walk through life in really nice shoes.
Both siblings have their respective shares of dalliances and romances. While they make for cool backstories, they don't fill them with joy or even nostalgia. The show shies away from judging, let alone condemning their pasts, understanding that their choices, however mistaken, are a part of growth. However, Schitt's Creek does suggest that closer, deeper, more thought out and worked at relationships might be healthier and more emotionally satisfying. As the series progresses, the Roses essentially adopt 2 more family members, the hotel clerk turned confidant Stevie, and David's business partner and eventual spouse Patrick. But that's getting ahead of things. On to the narrative. When we first see the Rose family, government agents are entering their estate and proceeding to literally strip them of their opulent lifestyle in order to settle their unpaid taxes. Faced with complete financial ruin, the family is offered one escape hatch: residency in the town Johnny had bought as a joke for his son David years before. Since the main alternative is homelessness, the Roses have no choice but to relocate to Schitt's Creek. With this inauspicious beginning, there is no love lost.
Seriously? The room was cute, this place is sweet.
I am personally offended.
by this place. I don't know what you think is nice about it.
The town is disgusting. It is gruesome.
Much of the humor is this fish out of water premise. We laugh at watching the Roses rough it in less than ideal circumstances, and without the advantages of their old wealth. It's a premise very much like the early 2000s reality TV series, The Simple Life, which starred actual personalities Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. But while The Simple Life was about imagining two rich young socialites in an unreal situation, the irony of Schitt's Creek is for it to be both funny and moving, the misadventure has to feel real and inescapable. It's like Gilligan's Island, except financial insolvency and unfamiliarity, not geography, have isolated these castaways.
Initially, the Roses are completely hapless. Each family member struggles to make do in circumstances no one has asked for. Owning a major chain of video stores does little at first to help Johnny find a viable new trade, much less fix a leak. It gets so bad that Johnny gets drunk after an attempted comeback goes sour. Moira is so beside herself, she is openly morose. David is so contemptuous, he has difficulty holding down jobs. Alexis tries to run off with an old boyfriend but is dumped before she can leave, and is compelled to stay put. All of this becomes rock bottom for the Roses.
Good night, children.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Let's all pray we don't wake up.
Here's where the town of Schitt's Creek becomes a balm and later a boon to the Roses. The family is put up in the local motel by the town's mayor and namesake, Roland Schitt. He and his unassuming yet cheerful wife Jocelyn proved to be the antidote to an earlier poison of privilege. The Schitts are among many locals we meet who befriend, or at least support the Rose family. This includes businesswoman and council member Ronnie, Bob, the local garage owner, Ray, the resident jack of all trades, and Twyla, the waitress at the Café Tropical, the only restaurant in town. This burgeoning relationship, that is of a family and its surrounding community, may just be the central message of this show. One of the discoveries made by the Rose family is that their earlier relationships before Schitt's Creek were rather shallow and ephemeral. Those acquaintances were only attracted to their wealth and status. When people out of the Roses' past do come to visit, it's not really to support, but to pity, to gloat over, or to ogle them as curiosities. People of Schitt's Creek are different. Everyone knows the Roses have had a great fall. In the end, they really don't care. They value them for who they really are and what they can be. This straightforward, supportive, egalitarian attitude allows the family to get on its feet, not merely to restore its financial fortunes, but to become more grounded, caring, and responsive members of their community. In embracing the values of the small town, the Roses improve individually. While difficult at first, the family begins to adapt, learning not only common activities but life and social skills. They break out of their earlier cocoon and start to flourish in the locale they originally treated with contempt. The Rose family starts to realize that there is more to living than just materialistic and superficial striving for either wealth, fame, or overall status. The town of Schitt's Creek can be seen as a kind of utopia. The prejudices and cruelties of other locales are banished from here, at least in the foreground. While there are day-to-day issues and misunderstandings, Schitt's Creek really lives up to its slogan, where everyone fits in. But in truth, Schitt's Creek is less a utopia than an idealization of the best of small-town life. It is simple living at its finest. People here live their lives without much fuss and with much understanding. They are embodied in the friendly neighbor who checks in on you and might bring over last night's leftovers. Again, this is idealized. Sometimes those same neighbors are just looking for an excuse to be nosy and be up in your business. But here that is a minor worry. Schitt's Creek argues that it's the hyper-competitive, money-hungry, and attention-craving fast lane that we need to worry about. Like a rehab clinic or a retreat, the town of Schitt's Creek strips the Roses of their trappings, pretenses, and toxic tendencies. It gets them back to basics and reassessing their lives. While each member reacts differently, all the Roses are now changed. They remain ambitious, but they learn to move out of their comfort zones, to reach out to unexpected sources, and to treat others with more respect and consideration.
and a not so little warmth of love wends its way into their hearts. Some of it is romantic, but mainly it is a general one for other people. For while things can be lost, acquaintances can be fake, popularity and status can bloom and then bust. It's those true bonds of love that last a lifetime.
So why wait? Book your vacation now to this humble little oasis. If heaven had a creek, it would be this one.